Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this webinar session. We're going to be talking about the Creative Access Career Development Bursary today, and we'll go through details of the bursary fund and eligibility, provide insights into the application process, and you'll also get the opportunity to hear from a previous bursary award recipient. There will also be a Q&A at the end. And just to sort of note that if you'd like closed captions on for this session, you can turn on the sort of subtitles transcription in the More bar on the Zoom sort of settings. So just to sort of introduce you to the Creative Access team that are on the call today, there's myself, Tinu, the Career Support Programs Manager.
And hi everyone, I'm Rochelle, the Marketing and Communications Manager at Creative Access.
So who are Creative Access? Creative Access are a social enterprise working to open up creative careers access and help people thrive in the creative industries. So since being founded in 2012, we've identified that the approach to ED&I is not a singular one. And we started off providing internships specifically for Black, Asian, and ethnically diverse individuals. But we've sort of opened that up since 2016 to supporting anyone who's underrepresented in the creative industries. In terms of how we do this, there's sort of two sides to it. There's the access side and the thrive side. So access looks at our sort of paid internships opportunities, our jobs board, community outreach, and recruitment. And they sort of work to improve knowledge and access to the creative economy through all of these different approaches. And then we have the sort of thrive side of things, which is career-long support. So the aim of the career-long support is to sort of make significant and sustainable impact within the creative economy. And part of this support is the Career Development Bursary Award, kindly funded by William Morris Endeavour and McLaren Racing. And this is to aid progression within our community and break down financial barriers for underrepresented individuals in the creative sector.
Thanks, Tinu. So I'll just take us through a little bit more about the Career Development Bursary, what you can spend it on and how to apply. So our Career Development Bursary has been running for around 4 years now, and each year we run research alongside it to see how financial barriers are impacting our community. This year, we found that over a third of people from underrepresented backgrounds had been forced to decline a job due to financial barriers, and that's things like relocation or high living costs. And as Tina said, the bursary is generously supported by our partners, WME and McLaren Racing, and it aims to help alleviate some of these financial barriers that are impacting ability to access and progress in the creative industries. So you can apply for a bursary of any amount of up to £1,000 to help you get to the next stage of your career. You can apply via our website, and the deadline is 9 a.m. on Friday, the 4th of November. So over the past 3 years, we've awarded bursaries ranging from £250 to £1,000 to more than 120 talented people from underrepresented groups in the creative industries. And previous recipients have gone on to use the money to fund everything from music videos to oral history projects to film festival submissions. So there is really a broad range of things that you can use the money for, and I'll just list them now. So you can use the bursary for training courses, and that includes driving lessons, equipment like cameras or laptops, software programs like Adobe Creative Cloud, Microsoft Office or Logic, equipment or venue hire, relocation costs, that's things like your deposit or rent support, contribution to living costs whilst you're working or training, so that could be your travel or accommodation costs, disability access support, care costs, and that's for anyone who's a carer or a parent, coaching or mentoring, or participation in career development programs. And it is worth saying here that we can't fund academic courses, debts, any costs that should be paid for by an employer, or any expenses for activities that have already occurred. But if you're still feeling unclear, please do just get in touch with us, and we'll put our emails later on in the presentation. But yeah, just don't hesitate to reach out and ask. So here's some terms and conditions on who can apply. So bursaries are only open to individuals over the age of 18 from communities that are underrepresented in the creative industries. And you also have to have a right to work in the UK. But yeah, please note this is a positive action scheme. So it's targeted at individuals who identify as being from an underrepresented group in the creative industries. This includes Black, Asian and ethnically diverse individuals, but it can also include care leavers, young carers, people who've come to the UK as refugees or asylum seekers, and those undergoing gender reassignment and transitioning, as well as disabled people and individuals from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. You'll also need to demonstrate financial need. So please don't apply if you are not in need of financial support or have savings of over £5,000. The funding period begins after early January 2025, and you'll have to spend the money by the 27th of August 2025. I also just want to clarify quickly what we define as the creative industries. So that's anyone who's working in or aspiring to work in publishing, journalism, music, theatre, dance, the performing or the visual arts, film, TV and radio, and the audio industry, fashion, PR, marketing and advertising, campaigning, government and policy, the museum, gallery and library sector, talent management, and gaming and technology. So in your application, you'll have to include a personal statement, and this should be really clear with really strong reasoning for why you need bursary support at the moment. This will include a short overview of your career to date and aspirations for the future, what you would use the bursary for and how the funded item or items would support you in your career development, why you need financial support at this time, what your next steps would be if you secured our financial support, and when you would plan to spend the bursary by.
Great, thanks, Michelle. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what it is that we're looking for in applications. So, you know, you want to be asking yourself these sort of questions. Am I eligible? Am I applying for career development or a project? Using the award to sort of create a project, you have to be able to demonstrate that that is essential to your career development. So essentially what we're looking for is for applicants to paint a story. We want to hear all the details of your career so far and how this award will sort of go to good use in terms of helping you progress your career as well. So make sure that what you're applying for is appropriate for the career level that you're at. So say, for example, you're starting out as a photographer, you sort of won't be needing the sort of most high-end camera available if that's something that you're just sort of dipping your toe into, or something where you're just starting out, because the bursary is sort of for people that are starting to launch their career or individuals who are looking to further their career as well. So it really is for anyone that's eligible who sort of thinks that this is the right step for them in terms of their career progression. So yeah, you want to be painting a picture of your career journey so far. Make sure that you can sort of use the award during the funding period that starts in January, and sort of have these questions in your mind, such as, have you done enough research to show that you've really thought about why this is necessary for you? And also sort of being able to put together a clear timeline of when the bursary will be spent, itemized costs, research links, and budget if needed. So show that you've done your research and looked at various options, include links and reference them during your application as well. And just make sure that it's sort of really detailed, so that when your application is being assessed, you don't sort of have regrets like, oh, I should have included that, because you can't submit more than one application. So what do previous recipients have to say? I'd like to introduce Poppy Prescott, who was a bursary award applicant that was successful in last year's iteration. And Poppy's just going to sort of share with you a little bit about her experience and some tips for your application as well.
Thanks. I just want to check you can hear me. Okay, good. Hi everyone. It's really so proud and happy to be here talking about this bursary. So I'm Poppy Prescott. I'm a singer-songwriter from Hastings, and I used the bursary to fund a live music video this summer. It was an incredible experience. Me and my band went to a recording studio in London by the docks, and we recorded and filmed 3 of my songs there with an engineer and videographer. So just for some context, footage of this quality is like an industry standard in music. There isn't a festival application or promoter who doesn't want to see that high quality video of you and your band live before they book you. It was just really important that when I hit that wall, I stressed in my application, this is why I need it. So I've split my advice into different bits for you. So the first thing I want to say is I've applied for so much funding over the years, and this was one of the easiest applications I've ever had to write. It really is simple when you break it down. So I started off by talking about my career so far. I talked about how I've developed it and highlights, and also where I'd like to be in the next 12 to 24 months. So they kind of knew I was serious. I was very specific about why I couldn't afford it, like coming from a working class background and being an intern at the time. I didn't have family to ask, I didn't have savings, and I detailed like all the resources I'd used to get to this point in my career. So my big top tip would be use tangible reasoning to justify what you're asking for. Like I picked a reputable studio and engineer. I called upon some research I'd found on how live performances cultivate new fans on YouTube and social media. And I referenced that I'd gotten feedback that a live video of me in my room on my phone didn't translate to how we perform live. And then for the quotes, I literally used screenshots from conversations I'd had with those guys on WhatsApp, and that was proof. So it really wasn't as scary or as complicated as a lot of funding opportunities are. So that would be my big advice. You want to pick something really strong and long term you'd like to fund, because I consider so many different things, like did I want tour, did I want merch? But I stressed that the video would last forever and it would be an integral part of a bigger goal. Which for me was to play more festivals and bigger venues in 2025. I do have just one last tip, if that's all right. It was to ask somebody else in your life, it doesn't matter whether they're in the industry or not, but to read your application, because I think it's so easy with these things to just sort of ask for the money and say why you need it, but don't forget, the marker knows nothing about you. Don't make any assumptions about what they know, even though you know you're really hardworking and probably talented. You need to explain why they should believe in you, and evidence that. So believe in yourself. I applied as a shot in the dark and I couldn't believe I got it. It was really amazing. So I encourage everyone to do it and just back yourself with evidence and a friend to read your application. I'll be around at the end if anyone has any questions, but that was my amazing experience with the bursary.
Thank you so much for sharing, Poppy. I think that's really useful, but hopefully our attendees think that's really useful as well. So the next thing that I'd like to move on to talking about is the actual timeline for the bursary. So as you all hopefully know, we're open for applications already. And, from today, there's still another 4 weeks left until the deadline. So the deadline is Wednesday, the 4th of November at 9 a.m. So you've still got plenty of time to get your application in. And then we'll be assessing the bursary over 6 weeks from when sort of bursary applications close. So you should hear back from us whether your application was successful or unsuccessful mid-December. Please also bear in mind that it can take up to 6 weeks to hear back from us. So I'd encourage you to sort of not ask for an update on your application before it hits mid-December, as there will be so many to sort of assess, and we'll want to sort of communicate to everyone all at the same time. And then moving into sort of the new year, 2025, that's when the funding period will start. So we'll essentially send out the bursary agreement, which will include sort of looking at the eligibility criteria. So as Rochelle mentioned earlier on in the presentation, this is a positive action scheme. So part of that bursary agreement will be assessing the eligibility and suitability of whether the individual is Black, Asian or ethnically diverse, undergoing gender reassignment or transitioning, has a disability, or is from a lower socioeconomic background. So once that's all sort of returned, Creative Access will pay out 80% of the funding. And then, once receipts and resources are submitted, so evidence that the sort of award has been used, whether that's, through bank statements or receipts, that's when the final 20% then gets awarded. Please also note that if you're making a one-off purchase that's not impacted by timescale, so for example, if you're purchasing software or a laptop, we may give you an earlier deadline to submit your expenses. So you may not be able to utilize that entire sort of window up to August 2025, but we'll also really clearly communicate that to you just so you're aware ahead of time. So I'm just going to play a little bit of a video just to demonstrate how to actually apply. So if you go to our website, creativeaccess.org.uk, and click on the opportunities board, type in Career Development Bursary in the search bar and then click search. You'll then see the Career Development Bursary opportunity. I've decided to open it in a new tab, but you can just click through. Read through the information if this session hasn't been thorough enough, and then you click apply. So when you click apply, it will take you straight through to an application form. The application form's 4 pages long. Please make sure you read the access statement, the declarations, all of the information. As mentioned, you can only apply once, so make sure you take your time. We do recommend setting aside around half an hour to complete your application, but this could be 30 minutes to 45 minutes. So make sure that you're sort of prepared to fill in all the information on your personal statement, your career journey so far, and all that good stuff.
So we also want to let you know that we are hosting a masterclass with one of our bursary sponsors, WME, called How to Supercharge Your Creative Career on Tuesday, the 22nd of October. And this is actually featuring 3 of our former recipients. So they're going to be talking about their career journey so far, how they've progressed, and I'm sure they're going to be offering up some inspo on how you can make a really great application. So please do come along. You can sign up via the QR code on the bottom right-hand side, or it'll be on our opportunities board, and we can share the link in the chat function. So you can sign up on there as well. Great. So now we're heading to the Q&A portion. We've received a few before the session, so thanks to everyone who submitted them on their form, and I can see a few are coming through on the Q&A function. So please do, if you've got any questions, send them in now, and do upvote any that you like the look of. So Tinu, shall I go ahead and ask some questions?
Yeah, please do. Please do.
Cool. So this is a really good question. Do applicants need to be working in one single discipline, or is a multidisciplinary creative practice okay?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that the intersection that a lot of underrepresented individuals in the creative industry sort of exist at means that they are usually multidisciplinary. So they have sort of lots of skills, fingers and lots of pies. So I would say that that doesn't limit anyone from applying to the bursary. I think the really important thing to note is that you want to make sure that you're really thinking through what you want to put the award towards. So if you do work across different sectors in the creative industry, or you are multidisciplinary, you're going to have to sort of think about which discipline it is that you sort of want the award to go towards, and you're going to have to sort of be able to detail that in your personal statement and application as well. So it's not a barrier preventing anyone from applying to the bursary award, just worth thinking about which discipline it is that the award will be going towards.
Great. We also had another question ahead of time, which I think is a really good one. Does the equipment have to be brand new, or can it be secondhand? Yes, it can be secondhand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no planet B. So yeah. If there are sort of more cost-effective options that do include sort of pre-loved products or equipment, by all means, evidence this in your application, include links, and yeah, again, we love the planet.
Great. Someone's also asked, what are the key things to avoid in your application?
Key things to avoid in your application. I think it can be really easy when writing an application to just sort of put down everything. Um, I think it's really important to make sure that everything that's being written is sort of relevant. So as much as you want to sort of detail your career journey so that you can evidence what the award will be put towards and why it will be useful, please try and make this sort of like streamlined, just to make it easier for the person that's assessing the application. And also, you know, we're not asking for like additional sort of like attachments of like CVs or, you know, like a covering letter or anything like that. I think just try and be as detailed as you possibly can, but sort of staying on track, if that makes sense.
Great. Talisha in the chat has asked, can you apply to use the money for more than one thing as long as it's under the budget?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of bursary awards, you can apply from the sort of minimum of £250 up to £1,000. So say, for example, there's different things that you would like to fund that are all integral to your career development and progression. What you can do is you can submit itemized costs for multiple items. So say there was like software and equipment or like a course, you could submit itemized costs for all of these different items, include the links, include the research, include the reasoning of why it's important to your career progression and development. And yeah, by all means, that's absolutely okay.
Nice. Tiana's asked in the chat, if you are unsuccessful this round, can you still apply next year?
Yes, absolutely. So this year's round of the Career Development Bursary is currently being funded by William Morris Endeavour and McLaren Racing. We should be running another iteration next year, so please do keep your eyes peeled on our opportunities board. If you apply this year, it by no means stops you from applying for all other opportunities in the future.
Great. Sarah in the chat also asked, is there a Word version of the form so I can format to make accessible? Yes, we kind of go on to talk about that in the next slide, but I do just want to clarify, we do have an accessible version of the application form that we can send to you if you just shoot us an email. So thanks, Sarah, for asking that. Just get a couple of more questions. Okay, this is a really great one. Naomi asked, do we need to source proof of our marginalised identity?
So the way that that's assessed is through, so anyone that's already signed up to the Creative Access Opportunities Board will sort of know that there's a form that sort of assesses whether you're eligible for positive action schemes. So in terms of proof, I think proof can be quite difficult because there could potentially be individuals who identify as being neurodivergent or have neurodivergent traits. This is just sort of one example. But you know, as we know, it's really difficult to get a diagnosis in the UK at the moment. Waiting lists are really, really long, and we wouldn't want that to stop anyone from accessing support. So in terms of eligibility, it is sort of self-identifying. You know, we do have sort of like a form that will ask you sort of various questions about your identity and your experiences. And that's sort of what goes towards qualifying eligibility for the positive action scheme.
Yeah. Halumi in the chat has asked, how many projects or people on average can you give funding to? And I think, yeah, it just really depends on how much people are asking for. So it really does vary each year. I don't know if you want to expand on that at all, Tinu, but
yeah, absolutely. So this is the 4th year that the Career Development Bursary has been running. And you know, up to date, we've funded 120 individuals. So the amount of people that receive funding or awards every year sort of varies. It varies on the amount of people, the amount that people are asking for. It also varies according to sort of like industries or where people are based. There's so many different factors that go into the sort of award side of things. Um, I hope that helps.
Yeah. There was a few more people asking that as well, so hopefully that answers the question, guys.
Yeah, I mean, just to sort of add to that, there is no real way, like I couldn't sort of like give you a figure at this moment in time. There's so many different factors that that sort of depends on. But you know, having sort of awarded 120 at this point, with there sort of being 3 previous years, I think that might be able to sort of give you like a rough idea of how many people are awarded each year. But again, it depends on sort of the number of applications and things like that.
Totally. Paddy in the chat, a couple of people have upvoted their question, and they said, I'm applying for a marketing coaching course. It's non-academic. However, the fee is over £1,000. If I apply for the amount you offer and then I self-fund the remaining amount, would that affect my application in terms of my need for financial support?
That's a really good question. You know, when it comes to the eligibility, you need to be able to demonstrate that you need the financial support. And one of the stipulations of that is sort of not having more than £5,000 in savings. So I think as long as you pay attention to the eligibility of, you know, are you someone that's underrepresented? Is this something that's going to aid in your career development? Are you someone that's in financial need? Because that sort of has varying degrees or various sort of meanings for different people. I would still encourage you to apply if it's something that you can't supply on your own, if it's something that you do require financial assistance for. I'd just be sort of more conscious of detailing why you sort of require financial assistance. So if you're able to sort of, you know, talk about other things that you've self-funded in the past, or other sort of opportunities that you could potentially have applied for, I'd include all that information in your application.
Yeah. A really great question in the chat from Jasmine, and I know we had a similar one in the forms from someone. Is this fund available for individual creatives specifically, or can you be part of a collective or a group? Jasmine's part of a puppetry and visual theatre group, for example.
Yeah, that's a really great question. What I would recommend is one person in the group applying for the award. So if you're part of like a performance group, you won't need individual applications from everyone in the group. It would just be that sort of one person who would apply on behalf of the group and also demonstrate what this financial award and opportunity would mean for the group in terms of their progression, their long-term goals, and moving forwards.
Great. Someone, Patricia asked, what financial evidence do you need to provide?
Financial evidence that need to be provided will be sort of like bank statements, and also sorry, I've just drawn on a blank.
Yeah, bank statements, and yeah, proof of your savings, how much savings you've got. But we can go into a bit more detail on that on email if anyone is looking for particulars or specifics to help out with their application.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Michelle.
I'm just going to go through a couple of more questions just before we close out. This is from someone anonymous in the Q&A. They have asked, if you are writing an application for a specific product that fluctuates in price, can you include estimates? For example, if the average price is around £120 and linked to a listing, but it might be a bit more expensive or it might be a bit cheaper.
So what I would do is I would apply for the award for how much that piece of equipment is at your point of contact. And I would include that research in the application, as that demonstrates that you're sort of really keen on purchasing that product for your career development. And yeah, I would also, maybe mention that there's the potential that the sort of cost will increase, but in terms of the itemized cost of the item that it is that you're applying for, I would definitely sort of like just use the itemized cost as it is.
Totally. I'll just do a couple more. Someone asked, does the money get taxed and affect things like universal credit? I think on the universal credit front, it's always best to check these things with your job coach. But in terms of getting taxed, do you know the answer to that one?
I don't know the answer to that one.
That's okay.
Yeah, no, I don't, unfortunately. But again, I would sort of echo what Rochelle says, in checking with your sort of universal credit job coach, maybe uploading a question to your journal, and just sort of finding out to make sure, as they'll be sort of like the best place to answer that question. In terms of tax, I don't think so. But again, that's definitely something that I would have to check.
Yeah, we'll double check that and get back to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Sorry, just while we're here,
yeah,
Rochelle, I know that there were some sort of questions
yeah.
about whether application progress can be saved. You can
Mm-hmm.
save application progress, so you don't have to sort of complete it all in one sitting, which I hope sort of clarifies some things, for the participants watching today.
Yeah, amazing. There was a couple of more questions that we actually got sent in before, and that was someone asking, can you be unemployed or do you have to be in employment to pay for this? Either. You're welcome to apply whether you're in employment or not. And also a couple of people asking if there's a age limit. No, you just have to be 18 plus. So yeah, do we have a little bit more time to go through a few more questions or should we move on?
Yeah, I think so. I just wanted to sort of address some other questions as
Mhm.
well, in that, we do fund driving lessons, but that can also be used to pay for like the theory side of things, or the provisional side of things as well. I think that's really important to mention. And also when it comes to an application, I was speaking about itemized costs. So if you wanted to apply to fund for different things, there is the sort of chance that we'll say yes to funding some items, but not all. So you could still be awarded a bursary fund, but it just may not be the amount that you'd initially applied for. So I hope that sort of between me and Rochelle, we've covered most, if not all, of your questions. But sort of Rochelle will share our contact details at the end of this presentation as well. So if you do have anything that comes to mind, then please let us know.
Yeah, and thanks so much everyone for asking such brilliant questions. Great. Okay, yeah, so as Tinu said, if you need to get in touch with us and ask anything that we haven't answered, you can do so at programs@creativeaccess.org.uk or get in contact with tinu@creativeaccess.org.uk. So we can give some support with some access support. So if you want to submit a voice or a video recording, if that would suit you better, if you need a Word version of the application or a large print version of the application. And I also want to say there is an easy read version of the opportunity listing at the top of the career development listing on our website. So if you need that, that's there as well. But yeah, anything else, please do just get in touch and we're happy to help. Great. So we'd really love it if you'd be able to scan this QR code and give us some feedback on how the session went. We really love feedback. It really helps us build our future sessions and helps us deliver better content to you. So please do let us know how we've done and what you enjoyed, what you didn't like so much of, and yeah, what we can do better in future. It's been so great having you all here, and thanks so much for, yeah, like I said, sending such great questions and listening to us on what I imagine is a lot of people's lunch breaks. So thanks so much. And we hope it's been helpful. Yeah, please do get in touch if you need us. And we're really, really excited to read all your applications and see all the really fun, creative stuff that everyone's doing. It's such a joy to work on this project. So yeah, best of luck, everyone. We're really excited to hear from you.
Thanks, everyone.